Meditation in our culture is a fairly counterintuitive thing to do. We are very action-oriented and results-oriented, and the act of sitting around in utter silence and doing nothing for 10 or 20 or 30 minutes just doesn't seem something that people want to do. And for me, this was true for a very long time too. In my 20s, I did try to meditate. I practiced using the Jesus prayer and a few things I'd read from books, and sometimes I could manage 5 or 10 minutes of silence, and I appreciated that it was something that gave me a sense of peace and calm, but it wasn't something that I could do for any length of time. But I did try. Give me credit for that. In my 50s, something happened to me. I was diagnosed with cancer. The medical profession were fairly bleak about my outlook, so I investigated every other alternative form of cure that I could think of. One of these was a man called Ian Gawler in Australia, and I visited his institute just out of Melbourne. The program that he led us through was based mainly on making various lifestyle changes. One of those was a plant-based diet, which I have sort of kept to ever since. And the other was meditation. Now, I was used to doing 5-10 minutes meditation at a time, but when I got there, I found that on the first day, we all went into the meditation room and sat there for 40 minutes in silence. Then there were other periods of meditation during the day, so that when I'd finished the 10-day program, I had developed a habit of sitting still 40 minutes every day. And at that stage I didn't know what it might be doing for my cancer, but I knew it was doing an awful lot for my mind and for my soul. This was a corner turned for me. And now the quiet space in the day are my favourite bits of it. For me, it's kind of a cognitive thing. My life has been dominated by an insatiable quest to understand, and for the last few years there's been a growing certainty that the path to understanding somehow lies through this period of enforced inner silence. Ian Gawler's advice to me was that meditation is as important, more important even, than any other lifestyle change that I might want to make if I'm intent on pursuing healing. This can happen at a very basic level. There's a lot of frazzled people out there for whom a little bit of completely stress-free time in the day seems like a pretty good idea, and I can see their point. This cognitive thing, I want to explain that a bit. I want you to think of the last time you drove somewhere. No doubt you made the journey with very little thought, if any, about the actual process of driving. We go for a drive. We converse with the person that's with us. We listen to music on our stereo system. We muse about the things that are going to happen in or out of the day, and all the while our brain is performing all the complex operations associated with driving completely automatically and unconsciously. Now, another thing. Think about how much you knew when you were born and what you know now. You've learned countless things and performed them so unconsciously that some tasks, things like walking or controlling your bowels or talking or standing upright, for example, you've forgotten that they are learned behaviours and that there was a time when you did not know how to do them. You run through your day performing thousands of different operations unconsciously, which is wonderful. But it does mean that the way you learn to do something sticks fast, and it's not accessible to change. Just try changing the accent with which you speak, for example, let alone changing the language itself. And these automatic patterns are not just to do with physical activities. They also dominate the way we think, the emotions we feel, the way we relate to other people, and the very way, actually, we perceive the world. Our whole sense of self is a collection of these automatic patterns. Patterns so automatic and so unconscious, we don't even know that most of them are there. Most of our physical, emotional, intellectual and cognitive lives are lived unconsciously on autopilot. Despite our illusion to the contrary, we're not in control of much of it at all. Anthony de Mello says, most people, even though they don't know it, are asleep. They're born asleep. They live asleep. They marry in their sleep. They breed children in their sleep. They die in their sleep without ever waking up. And meditation is about waking up. It is about escaping from the clutches of the automatic patterns of our bodies, of our minds, and of our spirits. Meditation is about being aware of the world around us that is normally seen through the lens of our habitual patterns, and being aware of ourselves, including the bits our patterns have long since numbed out and kept well away from our conscious minds. The patterns that we live in are very resilient and hard to escape. They're shy of awareness and like to scurry for cover at the first opportunity. The sense of self that is made up of the sum of all those patterns is also very resistant to being sidelined and protests about it. And that's why this little thing, simply doing nothing, is such a tricky thing to achieve. But when you do manage it, you finally gather up the willpower to do a bit of meditation, and you sit there in silence, and there is this moment when all of the old patterns seem to disappear. Then the old ones immediately kick in. They say, "Hey, look at me meditating. I've done it." And you're thinking again, and immediately back to where you started from. A regular pattern of meditation has its physical rewards. Fairly robust testing shows that performed regularly, it lowers stress levels, increases immune functioning. It has a positive effect on pretty much every bodily system you care to name. And I find that after meditating, I'm more focused and efficient. My relationships seem to run more smoothly, and I have much improved in a sense of equilibrium. But in a way, these are secondary. It's those short but regular periods of the day when the old patterns are shelved that is the real reason that I do this. Because I know that the sense of deepened reality that comes with the shelving of those old patterns is starting very slowly to leach out into the rest of my life. So that's why I meditate. But I know that there is another question for some of you. I'm a Christian, and I expect that some of the people who I'm speaking to now are Christians. I was from the evangelical stable, and I'm aware of the strong sense of disquiet that many evangelicals have about meditation. So the questions that might be asked is meditation a form of prayer? And should Christians even be doing it? And to answer those questions, I would say, well, maybe it's a form of prayer, and yes, you should be doing it. There's a short answer. A longer answer is not that easy to come by, because I think to really understand the benefits of meditation, you've got to do it. And it's not easy to establish a meditation practice if you are a Christian, because there's no easily visible meditative tradition in most of the church. And even if someone becomes interested in meditation, where are they going to go to learn about it? You won't find a notice on Thursday's meditation class in many church notice boards, and you won't find many teachers of meditation listed in your church's address book. There are books that you can find, books by John Main or Anthony de Mello or Morton Kelsey if you want to look at an old one. There's more modern books like Thomas Keating's various works, which can give a pretty reliable information and instruction. But does your Christian bookstore stock them? I wouldn't count on it. And sure, we know that there are monks and nuns somewhere who probably meditate, but mostly we hardly know what the word means. Sometimes we use the word to denote deep thought, particularly if that thought consists of pondering the meaning of tricky Bible verses. Sometimes we use it as a synonym for a short sermon. Sometimes we refer to it by kinder, more acceptable synonyms, such as contemplative prayer, and we share our experiences and almost get what it's about. Sometimes, in much of the church, there's not just an absence of meditation, but downright suspicion of it. Say the M word, and you conjure up images of the Maharishi or Tibetan guys in orange robes blowing big trumpets, and we all know where that leads to. It's no wonder then that within the church misconceptions about meditation lie thicker on the ground than Pentecostals after a healing meeting. The principal misconceptions include these. Number 1. Meditation is about losing connection with the world and entering some sort of trance state. Well, no. Meditation is about becoming more connected with the world and heightening our awareness of it. Well, number 2. Meditation involves letting go and losing yourself. On the contrary, meditation involves the difficult work of not being swept away by our own or anybody else's thoughts. Well, number 3, the aim of meditation is to stop mental activity and think about nothing. No, that's death you're thinking of there. We can't turn our brains off. We can, in time, learn not to be prisoners of our own thoughts, but that's another matter. Well, meditation is opening yourself to odd spiritual influences. I don't think so. No more than any other human activity. Meditation of itself is no more and no less spiritual than other mental activities such as thinking or dreaming. But like thinking or dreaming, it is a very sure means of personal spiritual development. Well then, meditation is Eastern, and to participate in it means selling out to the Hindus or Buddhists. While it is true that the Eastern practice of meditation has been much more open than in the West, and that the Eastern practice of meditation is more visible and probably more highly developed, meditation is a universal human phenomenon, kind of like dreaming, with no particular debt to any one culture or faith. Well then, meditation is something we do with our minds. Not really. Meditation is something we do with our bodies as much as our minds, in much the same way that sleep is something we do with our bodies as much as with our minds. Well, meditation won't save your soul. Well, that's very true. But neither will fasting or attending Holy Communion, or going to church, or doing good deeds, or praying for that matter. Only the grace of God saves souls. Eating won't save your soul either, but that's no reason to stop doing it. Meditation is a spiritual practice, a training exercise we perform to strengthen our spiritual muscles. It is a technique, a way, a method by which we can cooperate with the Holy Spirit in furthering the works of sanctification. It is a way by which we can recognize and untangle the grave bandages we all trail behind us as we leave the tomb. I'm not sure why meditation has virtually died out in much of the church. Although it does survive in pockets here and there, it is something the church could well profit by rediscovering. I'll unpack this further in other podcasts. But if you want to know more of meditation, if you want to know what it can do for you, there's only one way to find out. Find a quiet place, sit still, and let everything go, and be with the God who is eternally present.